is the Board of County Commissioners Board Work Session. It is Wednesday, September 28th, 2022. It is 10:34 a.m. This is set to go until 11 a.m. We're in Building 1, room 280 for public virtual attendance. You may follow along on the Thurston County YouTube channel. I'm Carolina Mejia. I'm the chair of the board. To my right is Vice Chair Ty Menser. To my left is Commissioner Gary Edwards. In the boardroom, we have County Manager Ramiro Chavez, as well as Assistant County Manager Robin Campbell, and staff members joining us for a presentation, which is Charging Station Briefing. Now, would you like to do Jason's presentation?
I'm gonna.
Yep,
I'll kick it off. Good morning, Commissioners. Robin Campbell, Assistant County Manager, and I'm joined by staff today from Central Services. I'm gonna ask them to introduce themselves.
I'm Jason Ash, Facility Services Manager.
Bruce Rolo, Fleet Services Manager.
And
Sherry Soma, Project Support.
right, so during our capital improvement plan review, the CIP review, one of the items in the CIP is the installation of charging stations for electronic vehicles. And you had asked for additional information on where we plan to put the charging stations and whether or not we charge the public. So we're here this morning to answer those questions and any other questions that you might have about the charging stations. So I'm gonna ask Sherry, are you bringing up the PowerPoint for us, or are you just here to? Oh, Ramiro's got the slides. There we go. And I'm gonna turn it over to Bruce, actually, to lead the conversation.
Thank you. So it's an exciting time with electric vehicles. There's rapid progress being made by OEMs on the electrification of vehicles. Sedans and hatchbacks are well established with ranges that meet most county applications, although there are a relatively few number of those types of vehicles in the county inventory. Due to the requirements to travel out in rural areas, we tend to buy compact SUVs, and for work requirements, we tend to purchase class 2 and above trucks. So the plan is to replace these sedans to the maximum extent possible with EVs. And OEMs are expected to release compact SUVs that will be suitable for county use in the next 2 years, is what projected release dates are.
And Bruce, what is an OEM?
Equipment manufacturers, major vehicle manufacturers. There is class 2 trucks currently on the market, and the county has 2 of those on order. And that will be a good opportunity to assess their feasibility. One is intended for use as a pool vehicle, and one has been ordered for facilities for an ad. So looking ahead, this is a good time to put additional charging infrastructure in place. Currently, the courthouse has 4 chargers, and the Tilly campus has 4 chargers as well.
So the proposed project is to put in additional charging stations and talk a little about the project.
I can speak to the project.
Yep.
Yes, I can. So the first slide is a brief overview of what was included in your CIP informational briefing a while back. Project 25620, we plan to move forward with adding additional charging stations as money allows at county buildings and leased facilities that the county inhabits. We're looking to fund it from Central Services Building Reserves. Currently, we have $150,000 allotted to go towards that. We haven't moved forward with design yet, so we're not quite sure how many charging stations that will allow us to install. But that was just a brief overview of the CIP description.
And Romero has the control, so let's just turn the page. Thank you, Commissioner.
You notice I didn't jump over there to help.
Sorry. Apologies. Thank you, Madam Chair.
So the next slide, and I'll go to Bruce here shortly, this shows what we currently have available to the public as far as charging stations, and also what we have as far as private charging stations for county vehicles only. As you can see, we're very limited on the capabilities we have currently installed to move to electrical free.
Go ahead.
So,
No, go back to the map, please.
so the text box at each location, reading from top to bottom, you have the facility identified, the location identified, and then the number of charging stations currently in place. It's broken down by first public, then private, and then below those two lines are information about either EVs that are currently in place or projected to be.
What's public and what's private? Give me a definition.
So public is accessible to the public.
So we've got like one out here in the parking lot, I think, over here, right?
Yes.
Is that what you're calling public?
That is in the courthouse total. Yes.
Yes,
But it's a pub, I mean, the public can pull in there
Yes.
and
right.
charge up, right?
So if you look at the box at the upper left corner of this map,
Yeah,
it says courthouse.
yeah.
That's telling you that we have 5 public charging stations here on the courthouse campus. There are 5, and they're in places where the public could drive up and plug into them. And then the 2 numbers, so we've got 5 public and 0 private. A private charging station is in an area that the public can't get into, so like behind a gated fence.
Oh, like
or-
back where the judges park or something like
Yeah,
that.
or like
Okay.
out at,
Only accessible to county vehicles.
right, only
And
accessible to
only accessible
county.
to county vehicles, not
Right.
accessible. But
So
the
like
5 public aren't all accessible to the public, aren't they? 4 for county vehicles and 1 for public? That's what I'm trying to
we
figure out.
intend for
Oh, this is
them to
intended.
be, no,
No,
these are current, so of the 5, we intend for 4 of them to be county vehicles. They're spaces where a county vehicle can plug in, but if there's not a county vehicle plugged in, any person with an electric vehicle could drive up and plug in.
And that is supplied to that individual by use of a credit card, right? And they're
That is the
billed.
next part of this conversation.
So the Roman courthouse, we on parking lot D, we have, I believe, 2.
So there are 4 plugs.
Okay,
There are 3 designated stalls.
okay, so and that is a reserved parking for county. So when you say private, meaning the county employees could go with their personal vehicles and charge in those stations also.
Yes, but there's nothing stopping the public from getting to those charging stations.
Well, I guess when we start the public, it's reserved parking.
Exactly, if they
Right.
pay attention to that
To the
sign.
Yeah,
But other vehicles, we've seen other vehicles pull up and park there and plug in.
But there is a spot over here.
There is a
For those
spot
folks.
over here that is intentionally open to the public.
And the way they access that is they take their credit card and just hold it up there somehow, right? It's a reader, chip reader.
not to this one. The
Oh.
one up at the point is just a 120 volt outlet.
And there's not a credit card place to put in?
No, not on that one. The
So they-
one,
So they're getting free power
if it is used, yes.
if it's used. And when you say, what'd you say, 120? It's a 120?
It's yes, 120 volt regular outlet like you have in
What
your
does
house.
that provide you with when you have an electric car? What do you get? Do you plug in for an hour and you're charged up, or
No.
24 hours you're charged up? Or-
You're looking at 24 or longer, depending on the size of the vehicle. Really, it's conceivably a multi-day charge.
So I saw something in looked up and it shows how much, usage there's been at the courthouse over the last.
So let's go ahead and go to the next slide. The map
Is that on there?
shows you where we've currently got stations.
Yeah, that's where I was looking.
Yeah,
Okay. So we've had some kind of a plug-in since 2013, is what you're saying.
That we charge for, yes,
Oh, that you charge for.
yes.
Okay. When you say that we charge for, I'm trying to get this all figured out from an economic
Yes.
business plan standpoint. So if you put an electric charging station in, how much does that cost to put an electric charging station in? And in turn, how much are we charging the person that's charging their vehicle? So I don't know what a kilowatt, is it 10 cents a kilowatt? Or I don't know how they do it, but I'm kind of curious how that would be. And if electricity costs 10 cents a kilowatt, and that's just pulling a number out of the air, how are we paying for putting the electric charging station in? Is that added on 1 cent more a kilowatt until we get paid for it? I don't know. But I'm trying to get away from public gifting. That's kind of where I'm going on this whole thing. I'm not worried about whether or not we provide the service to the public. I'm concerned that we are getting adequate compensation to pay for the whole process. And if we had to put a new line in to make it work, how much did that cost? Or did Puget Power come and put it in? And if so, is it just part of what they're charging? Those are issues that I'm more concerned about.
And I'd like to pipe in, because Commissioner Edwards has been very vocal on this in several different meetings, and I haven't. So my concern is that we electrify our county fleet as fast as possible. I care about having the infrastructure for our county vehicles. The whole issue of whether the public, if we lock them all out to the public, that's fine for me. That's a conversation for a different day. I don't even care about that. I just want to make sure that we're doing what we need to do so that we have what we need so that we can, as Bruce laid out the timeline, we can replace the sedans. In 2 years, we can replace the trucks. I've seen great studies that they're testing police, law enforcement vehicles and public works vehicles and all of that. And so I'm going to be highly unlikely to approve any vehicle purchase that's burning fossil fuels, because I think we can start stepping toward this. So that's what my concern is. If the way to get Commissioner Edwards on board is to keep the public out of the equation, I can live with that. Because
That's kind of where
I
I'm
don't
at.
care anything about that. That's not what this is about for me.
I don't want to do any public gifting of funds.
so this is not gifting of public funds. I'm just gonna say right off the bat, I need to make that statement.
Why do you say
Not
that?
gifting of public funds.
If we've got
There is
something
a
plugged in out here for
public
free, no, public good isn't gonna sell with me. So you're not gonna get me convinced on public
Maybe
good.
allow her to provide an explanation.
Okay, but I don't wanna hear it's not gifting public funds if we've got a free plug-in over here that I can pull up with my motorhome and plug in and do free whatever.
And you certainly could.
Okay.
And the reason that is not considered a gifting of public funds is there is a public purpose. And the public purpose is to encourage less burning of fossil fuels.
Is there an
And
RCW that gives you that authority?
there is an RCW that defines gifting of public funds.
Okay.
And this does not meet that standard, if you will. The gifting of it is not a gifting of public
Well,
funds.
that's your opinion. Is there an Attorney General's ruling that says that?
I can certainly get a legal opinion for you.
Okay,
I will also say that one of the ways that we have looked at paying for these charging stations is grant money, and the grant money requires that the charging stations be available to the public.
okay, I mean, yeah, there could be some money coming from the feds, for an example, and we get a grant, and I know this is a movement.
Right.
I just want the movement to pay for itself.
Yeah, the
And I'm
movement's not going to pay for
Well,
itself. So
I'm
let's
gonna be
look at this.
hey, at thorn in your side, that's where I'm gonna be. So, just so you know.
Yep, that's something I'm already aware of, Commissioner. But let's look at how much revenue we currently get. If a yearly subscription, and could you define what a yearly subscription is that?
So what a yearly subscription provides is it provides internet access, identifying the county's charging stations as being available. So first of all, somebody who's out searching for a charging station,
I apologize to interrupt, but a yearly subscription with who?
The county pays a yearly subscription, and Bruce is describing what that subscription does.
Do we pay this yearly subscription?
Who do we
so our current vendor is ChargePoint.
ChargePoint, okay.
And that's somebody can go to that site and find out where to go charge your vehicle, right?
Yes. So first of all, it notifies ChargePoint subscribers where they can charge. It gives them the status of the charger, whether it's available or not. And then the service that ChargePoint provides us is we get revenue from the card swipe that you were referring to earlier. So.
To offset that yearly
Right.
subscription.
Yes.
Okay.
So in 2021, the most recent full year available, we paid $1,490 for this subscription, and our revenue was $24.81.
From a business plan, that doesn't.
It is a losing proposition, and that does not include the cost of electric, is that true?
That is true. That is just the subscription.
So the money that we receive from people who plug in and pay, plug and play, it doesn't cover the county's costs. It just doesn't.
So what fund would that come out of?
So we're currently paying that out of our M&O fund, right, Central Services?
It's ER&R.
Oh, ER&R.
And is there
ER&R.
general fund money in there?
That would be being charged back
It goes
to,
into our overhead and it's allocated across.
yeah, it's
They're
allocated out,
using ER&R service.
So it's 60-40?
roughly. Yeah, that's the rough allocation.
You know where I'm going with it, that's okay.
I do.
I'm pretty much with Ty, you
So
know,
with the project on the first page is the proposal to put more charging stations in for our own county vehicles. That's what we're looking for approval from the board to install more charging stations for county-owned vehicles.
So I have a question.
Yep.
On this second page, and we're seeing the potential EVs. So are those cars that haven't been purchased yet, or are those vehicles that are in our possessions, but those are where they're going to be located?
So this is a description of the charging station, right? Or the-
I do have a number here for potential EVs. These are not purchased. And in some cases, these vehicles aren't even commercially available. This is a 10-year projection.
So this is a 10-year projection. So how many electric vehicles are currently in the county's possession for like the courthouse, triage, facilities, atrium? How many, because we're seeing potential, but we're not seeing how many we have currently.
Right, so at the courthouse, below the 2 charging lines, 5 public, 0 private, there's 1 plug-in hybrid electric vehicle. So that vehicle has.
Where again?
The courthouse.
Here at the courthouse.
There's only one?
We have a vote.
Yes, we have a-
vote.
That's the only vehicle we've got that's an electric vehicle?
You should take it for a spin.
I'm driving it tomorrow to San
Yeah.
Bernardino Council.
based out of the courthouse.
Are you going up to Seattle with it?
To Port Gamble.
And then back?
Yep.
What's range on it?
So this is a plug-in hybrid. So what that means is it has both gas and a battery. So the battery range is about 40 miles.
Oh,
And
okay,
then
I thought it was all.
Which is
electric.
over to.
once the battery is exhausted, then it kicks over into gas.
Do we have any battery vehicles that are all battery vehicles?
We do. So at Public Works, at the Public Works location, we have 3 current electric vehicles.
Which one of those?
We have a Leaf.
Utility vehicles or?
So Fleet Services has a Leaf that is a pool car.
Okay.
And Public Works has a Bolt, which is an all
Okay,
electric.
so it's the same.
Is it what?
Volt,
A bolt instead of a volt?
volt,
Yes,
It's a volt instead of a bolt? What is it?
volt, volt.
V is in Victor.
I thought you said there was, I thought
It's a volt.
volt,
That's a Chevy Volt.
and it has gas and electric?
so GM has the Volt, which is
With the Victor V.
with a Victor,
Yeah.
and that is 40 miles of battery range plus a gasoline motor. It also has a Bolt with a Bravo.
Oh, okay. I got it.
They-
Oh, I didn't know the Volt with the Bravo.
Yeah, well,
And that has about 200 miles of all battery range, no gasoline.
Is that who's the manufacturer?
That one's GM.
GM?
Chevy.
Okay.
yeah, I see, I don't know, Chevrolet's got a pickup that's all battery, I think it goes 500 miles or something darn there, doesn't it?
So, which is on the map, we intend to, Fleet has one on order for facilities, which is, I believe it's a Ford Lightning,
It is.
which is
Maybe
fully
that's the
electric.
one that so I've just seen it.
It's not here yet, we're on order. So, the plan is to convert to electric fleet. To do that, we need more charging stations. If we're gonna pay for our own money, then we could put them in areas where the public has no access. However, if we're gonna use grant money, the grant money comes with a stipulation that it has to be available to the public.
And they have to pay for the charging.
Could certainly set it up to where
I
they
am
pay
gonna
for
be
the
dead
charging,
set
but they have
against
to,
free
we have to,
Charging.
well, then we'll
for the
turn back the grant money.
Well, that's okay with me, I don't care. I'm gonna fight you tooth and nail
I'm not
about
fighting anybody
giving
on
away
anything.
free
Yeah, so that would be.
power to citizens so that the rich people can buy a $60,000 electric car and we buy their fuel. I'm dead set against it.
That would be a good policy conversation by the board.
Okay, well, I'm just putting it on the table
Right.
here, you know, so everybody knows where I'm at, that's
Yeah,
all.
I'm
I just-
certainly
it's a
not
fairness
fighting
issue.
anybody, I'm
No,
telling
I
you what our
understand. You stated
requirements
your
are.
position,
Yeah.
and that would be a policy conversation the board needs to have.
Yeah, and I don't have any real argument with Commissioner Menzer on his position. I mean, it looks like it's headed to the future, you know, and I'm not against the future.
We've also been mindful of the climate plan that's coming out of the Climate Mitigation Committee.
So, is,
So what do we need to do? I mean,
Yeah, what
this is
is-
just to kind of give us
This
more
is an
information.
informational meeting at your request. We will eventually come back and say, please give us permission to go ahead and start installing these.
And
EV
just to
stations.
clarify, we can do that, and it's not inconsistent with potentially Commissioner Edwards' position. Maybe he, you know, presumably or potentially he convinces the board to make sure that all the public access is for fee. And that's not inconsistent with the grants that you're talking about that we want to access.
We will have to look at what the requirements are of the grants.
It has to be free access. I mean,
Right.
clearly if they're giving you a grant and requiring that, that can't then be turned around and told us that we're gifting public funds and be sued. Like that
Right.
doesn't necessarily mean as a policy matter, but you still might oppose it for Commissioner Edwards' reasons, but it certainly would get around that piece of it.
It is not a gifting of public funds.
If we get money from a grant and it says this money can be used to put a charging station in, or whatever it's gonna be. And they're going to pay for the whole thing and they're gonna pay for putting power in private vehicles. I mean, I might probably accept that, I don't know, I just don't want our taxpayers and our general fund, I mean, I am gonna be protecting our general fund. That's the biggest piece of it. And then it goes to the gifting. And are we subsidizing rich people to go buy a car that poor people can't buy? That's kind of where I'm at. So, we'll see where it goes. And I am very interested in the cost of putting these charging stations in. But who is paying, if it's a grant, it's gonna be free to somebody else to do it if we don't do it, and it leaves us in the dark ages if we don't do it. I don't want that either.
I have an email that I'll provide to Commissioner Edwards, because it was a public comment to the Climate Action Steering Committee where a citizen was laying out some of the new vehicles and the costs, and a lot of them are now in the mid-20s, or they're about to come, to where they're about, it's gonna be where an EV is not really more expensive or only available to the wealthy, the way it might have been at the front end of this whole thing. More and more are coming out at
More
a rate
affordable,
that's
yeah.
competitive with any gas vehicle. So hopefully that argument will, not be as potent because they'll be comparable.
I mean, we give away free food, and that helps people, it keeps them alive, all that kind of stuff. And I suppose eventually this is gonna evolve to something like that,
But I
it's
think
necessary.
the board needs to engage in a high-level policy conversation related to infrastructure with public facilities and access to the public. And just to give you an example, we provide access to the public, room 152. And it's for free, because that's a public facility. And we pay for electricity, we pay for internet, for everybody who wants to use room 152 for free. Because that's the obligation the county has to provide services to the public when we own an infrastructure. So when the board engages on the policy conversation, so what aspects of public infrastructure we're gonna be charging the public to use, that's a great conversation to have.
Okay.
But when stepping back a little bit higher level, in terms of just not focusing on the EV charging stations, has to be all that infrastructure that is publicly owned.
Okay.
And we also subsidize it. We subsidize that for the public use.
I'm hoping that we don't give this room out to people from Clark County that wanna sell Amway out here.
No, it's not.
You know, or something. Now, if we get to Thurston County residents, maybe I'd look at it.
Within reason, I mean, we're not providing here for business ventures, but it provides the opportunity for somebody who is scheduled a room and have a meeting for the public purpose.
We pay for the electricity and the lights in their meeting, it's a.
Sure.
Everything, yeah, and we pay for the keys.
There's
we pay
room
staff
for
to open
compromise.
All right.
Okay, 11:01 PM. Thank you all very much. We are
Thank you,
adjourned.
guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Good job. Okay,